Okay guys, so back up at the garage today. It's Friday afternoon. What I'm doing today is I'm going around the engine and just cleaning up all of the threads that are still open. There's quite a few of them: the exhaust manifold brackets, the engine mount bracket at the back. I've done a lot of them already. If you remember from the earlier videos, I did them all on the other side. Everything that I had off, all of the M6s, and these are M8s. But I tell you, once you actually start cleaning these up, I'll show you in a minute, it's amazing how much crud there is inside these threads. So I'm just going to go around and do those now. I've done the front of the engine, I've done these two here. I'm just going to do this one and then the other side. So yeah, that's the last of those three, and I don't know if you can see that one on there. Yeah, there you go, that's focused. Look at all that crud that was in there. One of those was even worse than that, but it's well worth doing. So the thread pattern on these top brackets for the exhaust system, they are M8 by 1.25. So this is pretty time-consuming work, retapping every thread. And it's not just the engine I've pretty much done everything on the car, but I can guarantee you, if you're going to this level of work, it's well worth it. Yeah, so I've just done the last one there, and you can see what I mean. It is just caked up in there. Obviously there's a lot of oil in there as well, which I added to the tool, but it's well worth doing. So I'm just gonna go around with the brake clean and squirt it into each of the holes, and then put some compressed air in it just to clean it out. Okay, so let's have a quick look. Yeah, I mean, without getting too much shadow on from the phone, but you can see in there how much cleaner that is, I hope. I don't know, the phone isn't focusing very well as usual, but it gives you an idea. Much cleaner. Okay, I'm just going to do the same thing to the bolts here, because it's worth cleaning up both parts of it. So I've just put a little bit of oil on the shaft here, and I'm actually not really using the tool properly. I've just got a socket here, and because it turns quite easily, I'm just turning it over the bolt like that, and it works pretty well. Don't know if you can see that. Just going sort of backwards and forwards, and I can feel some resistance there, so there's a bit of crud in there, so it's worth doing. So the last time I did this, somebody mentioned in the comments that maybe there's a coating on the bolts which is specifically there to stop the bolts from coming loose when in the engine, so it's up to you whether you want to do that or not. Okay, so that's the last of those cleaned up. Okay, just give them all a bit of a clean up, including the tool as well. and they are ready for when I can put the brackets on. Now, I bought the Bentley manual up, but the Bentley manual doesn't have the torque wrench settings for these bolts which go into the these brackets here for the exhaust system. So I've got a much more in-depth manual online or on my computer at home, which is actually a true Porsche repair guide, factory, workshop repair guide. So I'll use that, and I'm sure, I hope, that the torque wrench settings are in there for that. So that's going to happen tomorrow. Okay, so just looking at the rear engine mount bracket, it's looking pretty grimy, so in hindsight what I should have done is sent it off with all the parts that I had shot blasted, but I didn't, so I'm going to give it a bit of a clean up now. So with all of these jobs, having the right tools really helps things move quickly, but I've got quite a few tools in my workshop, but not everything. So as I mentioned before, a shot blaster or a sandblaster would be really, really practical. But I haven't got one, so I've cleaned a lot of these components up, and it has taken a lot of time. But you work with what you've got, and it pays off in the end. Okay, so after a long time of polishing and cleaning, that's actually looking pretty good. So polishing, I used the same polish as I used for the pipes underneath the car, and it's come up quite well. I could do a lot more on it, but this is really good enough for me. So I'm going to put it back onto the engine, and I've got to find the torque specs, but yeah, ready to go back on. Okay, so I'm just fitting the bracket to the engine now. What I'm doing there is applying some copper grease, because that's actually, when I was cleaning up the bracket, that's where the corrosion was, through all the salt water, I guess, collecting there. So a little bit of copper grease will help. You can also see top right of the engine there, I've refurbished the aircon pulley, but I did that off camera. Okay, so I was just putting that bracket on the back there, and actually it didn't fit because it was pushing against this. So I think maybe I've got this bracket on the wrong way round somehow, so I'm going to have to check images and so on to see if I've got this on wrong. I've got a feeling actually, no, look, that's correct. There's the mark. I'm gonna have to check.
12 seconds later.
This was a lot of messing around to know which way this bracket goes round. So just so you don't have to struggle, essentially it goes in like that. Okay, it took me ages to work out that. So that's how it fits in. Okay guys, so I'm going to leave it there today, and I'm going to be back up tomorrow. But yeah, so hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to put the gearbox onto the engine and then the engine into the car, which will be really exciting. The only thing I've got to do is find out the torque specs for these brackets here, and I've also got to find out where this crankcase bleeder feed comes from, because this isn't it. The one I've got going into the back, but I can't find for the life of me where the feed is for that one there, the top of the bleeder system. So if any of you know, please let me know. I'll see you later.